Welcome back to the Park Kids to Park Dads podcast. I'm Adam, joined here by my brother Mitch. We
Hey, Mark.
have our special guest today from the Still Having Fun podcast and the Nuff Said podcast. We have Bob Koshinski. So thanks for joining us, Uncle Bob. We appreciate you.
Well, Adam and Mitch, it's my honor, my pleasure to join you on anything Disney related.
Perfect. Perfect. We appreciate that. Kind of the family Disney expert between him and our Uncle Fran. So excited to have him on and his plethora of experience, both in broadcast, YouTube, all kinds of media.
I think your mom might challenge that theory about who knows more about Disney, but
At least in her own head, you
Yeah,
know?
right. That's all perspective based on that one. So
Yeah. So, um, so anyways, thank you for joining us. Um, so first question I had for you, we'll kind of do an interview format and then go conversationally is what brought you into the podcast? I'm sorry, not the podcast, but the YouTube space, um, and kicking it off with the Disney episodes.
I was just intrigued by the number of people that are doing a Disney travel vlog, more or less. And there's a couple who stand out, but I was in broadcasting for go over 40 years, and what they do is, in a sense, it's broadcasting, but it's so casual. I've been impressed at how conversational they can be when they do it. And also the fact that they're not shy to speak in front of a group of people as they're walking amongst them and people are giving them looks. And
Yeah.
so I thought, that's not something everybody can do. So I decided to try it. And my wife, Mary, gave me the green light to go down for a couple days, and I went down with some equipment, and it was definitely much harder than it looks.
Mhm.
And there's a couple things. I only had 2 days of park passes, and I wanted to get, maximum amount of stories or videos out of my trip. And I'm not as young as I once was, in that, pounding of the pavement on Tuesday at two different parks and then Wednesday at two different parks. And then in between going to Disney Springs and trying to shoot some things there. Also figuring out what the best settings on my camera should be. It was much harder than I thought it would be.
and tiring too, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was
Park to Springs, back to get a couple hours of sleep and then do it all over again.
the fact that the temperatures in November and they're not too much warmer right now. When I went into the Magic Kingdom on the Tuesday morning, it was 39 degrees. And, in the people of Florida, I mean, it was funny because I went by the ice cream parlor and there was nobody in it whatsoever. But it actually made it a little bit easier because it wasn't 85 and humid, and, that would have made it even tougher.
Yeah. Definitely threw yourself into the deep end with that type of recording schedule,
Yeah.
and right out of the gate. Do you feel like it's something you would do again? That type of around the
Yeah,
parks?
there's no doubt that the people that live in that area have the advantage to even attempt to do that type of thing,
Sure.
because, they're constantly putting up content, and that's what drives the viewers and the subscriptions. And for me, it's going to be more of a marathon than a sprint. I'm going to go back down at some point. I'm also going to do some other, because I didn't limit myself to just Disney.
Mhm.
I already did a walk around the Horseshoe Falls, the freezing
Yep.
temperatures with the colored lights. And I'm going to go to some theme parks, within driving distance. I think I'm going to go to the Christmas Story House in Cleveland, probably the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Comedy Hall of Fame. I mean, things that I can get to once the weather starts, the driving's a little bit easier. And like I said, once I start to build up content, we'll see where it goes. If nothing else, it's fun.
Definitely. I mean, you mentioned the conversational capabilities of these folks. A lot of times in the morning, we'll just throw on a live walkthrough, someone who's at Magic Kingdom or whatever, and they go and they talk to the cast members. They talk to people just sitting on benches, just where are you from? How's your trip? What are you doing? And I think it takes a lot of guts, to be honest with you, to walk up to a bunch of random strangers in that type of setting and throw them on camera and hope everything
And they
turns
can
out
get
right.
thrown out of the park for that. They're
Yeah.
really not supposed to interview anyone while you're
Mhm.
doing it. And I've read, and I'm sure you have too, there's there's some people out there who really feel that the vloggers are ruining the experience, especially those who go on rides and want to describe what they're seeing as you're sitting on the same car and it's
Yeah.
dark and they've got the light from the screen of the camera. And I was trying to be very careful when I was doing it, especially on the Tower of Terror, because you're in
Yeah.
pitch black and suddenly realize that even though I had a little LED screen that big, it was illuminating, the whole elevator
Subspace.
shaft.
Yeah, I
So I
remember
kept my
back in
hand over it.
I remember back
Right.
in 2003 that you didn't have that care, and there was a few times where you were kind of yelled at on the rides to turn your camera off. Different
I
times,
have no recollection. I have no recollection of that.
YouTube wasn't as big back then as it is
No,
now. So
and it wasn't for YouTube. It was just for home movies.
personal use, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
No,
One thing I found out, it's one thing to think you know stuff about Disney, but when you start walking around and you're saying stuff about Disney, you better know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's not like you're walking with your wife or your boys or whatever, and you're saying, "Oh, I think that was put there in 2010." And well, if you don't know and you say it, you're definitely going to get the comments from people who say you have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, maybe that's the route we go, is that we talk about what we don't know and and get the viewership that way. But
Yeah, Mitch and I do that on, in this situation. We'll talk about stuff, and I find myself, even things that I know for a fact, second guessing. Like, now that I've said it and it's out in the ether, is someone going to fact check me?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's usually John or my Uncle John or Joe. They'll Google stuff and tell me that I'm wrong, or at least
well,
criticize what I said when we're in golf. So
Every family has plenty of critics.
ain't that the truth?
Yours more than some.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. So, one of the things that I wanted to, as Mitch and I discussed, bring you on, obviously, one of the things we want to discuss, kind of as the theme of this podcast today, was kind of, we'll call it Disney Through the Ages, to put a grand name on it, but just the perspectives that you have, and then obviously we'll chime in as we get to more of a present tense on how the parks have catered to both the customers and the themselves, right, to drive business and drive innovation and stuff like that. But just kind of how the parks have progressed in Disney World itself, from your perspective. Way back in the day, I think Mitch made a comment back when Walt was alive or something.
yeah, that was me for sure. Yeah,
on the last podcast. But from where it started and when you first started attending, through being a father, being a grandparent, and now having the opportunity to kind of do what you and Aunt Mary have done over the last few years, or even yourself, just going.
So the first time I had a Disney experience, and remember, I grew up, I was born in 1954. So I was, just a small child when they created Disneyland. But, one of the most popular TV shows, and your kids all know about the current ones, but it was, the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. And Walt was very smart in using television back then to promote this theme park that he had built. So in 1965, I went to Disneyland in California with my grandmother, who would be your great grandmother, my mom's mom. She was going out there to visit her daughter. And I went along for the trip for 2 weeks, and we made a trip to Disneyland. And that back then, Disneyland, you didn't have to pay an entrance fee. You bought tickets when you got in the park. And the best rides were the e-tickets, which was a saying for the longest time. People would use that to describe any great experience. Oh, that's an e-ticket. Anyway, I was actually a little bit disappointed when we first walked through the castle and I saw the merry-go-round and things, because television made everything look so big.
Yeah.
And when you got there in person, part of that part of the park looked like Crystal Beach or any other theme park that you've been to as a kid. But then as you got further into the park and you saw some of the rides that had the animatronics and things like that, then it was definitely really cool. So now fast forward, I never made it to Florida till 1990 when when Aunt Mary surprised me with a anniversary present with a 5-day trip to Disney. We stayed at the Polynesian, and so we were right there on the loop, with all the other hotels in the Magic Kingdom. And again, when we first walked into the Magic Kingdom, and the first couple rides I went on, before I really got into the animatronic heavy rides. Like even like It's a Small World, I was like, geez, these things look like they're cardboard.
Mm.
And Aunt Mary wasn't too happy with me when I wasn't
Well, you
initially
voiced
blown
your
away.
opinion. Okay.
Well, I sometimes I do that. So, but again, as we got more into the park, and then especially once we got to Epcot, that's what I thought Disney was. And then I was sold, and I've been a fan ever since. And back then, we would go in September with the boys. You went on one trip with us, Adam, when you were very small.
Yep.
And the parks in September, because everybody had gone to school, uh, not anywhere near as crowded as they were in the summer. And that's definitely changed to this day. I've read now that what they do is they basically keep the staff to what they think the park will hold that day. So even when the park's not that busy, it seems busy because they don't have as many staff members, cast members working for you. So the
Yeah.
ride, the lines, the rides aren't going quite as fast. They've cut back since COVID. And now it seems like no matter when you go, at least initially, the parks seem busy.
Mhm.
At least to me, they do.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can tell you that when I was working there, we would know 2 weeks out what the attendance projections are, and we would
Yeah.
staff accordingly, and then change that again a week later. So there's definitely that aspect of it, is like the honing in the labor aspect of it for sure. And I never thought of it being a perception of it's busier looking because of that.
When did you work there now?
2010, 11, and 13.
Okay.
So
Yeah. And Mitch was on. Well, you can tell. I mean, tell what places you work, Mitch. What sites?
yeah, I was at the ESPN Club, RIP, still one of the long lost ones there. The Brown Derby and the Yachtsman Steakhouse, with a short stint
That's
at
cool.
Pop Century, their food court. So yeah, I guess to
So
follow that up, throughout the years, what would be quote unquote your perspective of like the golden era of Disney thus far, if you had to put a time frame on a couple of years?
I don't know. I guess maybe for me it was the mid 90s. Once, the MGM Studios was rocking and rolling, and, you had Animal Kingdom was created. When was Animal Kingdom? That had to be what, maybe late 90s?
Late
mid to
90s,
late
early
90s.
2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. So I think once the Animal Kingdom was first built, and you had, MGM Studios before it became Hollywood Studios, and of course the Magic Kingdom and Epcot. Yeah, I think that was maybe the golden era. The prices were more reasonable. Michael Eisner, even today, even though he's not associated with Disney, in a recent interview said he thinks it's too expensive. He thinks it's too
Yeah.
expensive for families. And I've said this 100 times. I always feel bad. You walk in the park. If you've been to Disney a lot, and you guys have, so when you go into the park in the morning, especially the Magic Kingdom, you'll see these families with the kids with all their, Disney gear and the hats, and everybody's so excited and they're happy. And then, if you leave the park a little after lunch because you want to go back to the pool and relax, whatever, you've been there before, so you don't feel like you're on a mission. And then you go back later at night and you see that same family and they haven't gone home yet. The kids are crying and
Mhm.
dad's wiped out. Mom's temper is short. And I feel bad because I think in a lot of cases, families save up for a long time for that magical trip. So
Right.
you're not going to want to waste it and then go sit poolside for 5 hours when you know that park pass is sitting there in your wallet and you've got to use it, or on your wrist.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel I think that in some cases maybe they've outpriced people, but the way the crowds are still coming in there, I guess maybe they haven't.
Yeah. We've talked about it a few times. Like our preferred now that, like you said, now that we've been there, we both have kids. It's kind of our preferred thing to do that rope drop because our kids get up early anyways. It's not like a big push to get anyone moving. Plus, you're in Disney, so they're excited. But
Right.
do the rope drop, go back after lunch, spend a couple hours, and then either, because we'll do longer trips now if we're going to make that drive, or what I mean, that trip. Um, then go back at night, or we might just hang out whatever we're doing, go somewhere else, go Disney Springs, for that specific reason that we've both done rope drop to close. And no matter how happy you want to be, there's going to be some things that bother you throughout the day, whether it's the heat or the kids or a mix of
Yeah.
everything. So you mentioned the price, and that was one of the questions I had just generally. Do you think they're pricing out a lot of the folks who would have gone, say 10, 15 years ago, right? Like the way the prices just increased. Do you think they're still, number one, do you think they're still giving the type of product they gave during, we'll call it the late 90s, early 2000s? And number two, do you think that's an intentional reason to change the demographics of the people within the park, or is it just a reason to, hey, costs of running things, creating things, etc., has just gone up and up and up over the years, so we need to make sure we're keeping pace?
I think they study long and hard as how to completely maximize their profit margins.
Mm-hmm.
It's a publicly traded company. They have stockholders. They have stock meetings. Everything they do is affects the stock. And I think that the thing that I find unfair is when you go into the parks now and they're renovating, especially Magic Kingdom right now.
Yeah.
There's a number of rides that are down, major rides.
Mm-hmm.
They don't lower your price of admission.
No.
You're paying the same amount of money. So if, again, you're one of those families who goes like every 8 years, 10 years, because you have to save up and you've got a large family, you may hit the park when some of the most classic rides aren't even available to go on.
Right.
And, and I get it. You've got to renovate and you've got to keep things up to snuff. But when you have 4 or 5 down at once, I mean, when I was there in November, now, of course, luckily, Aunt Mary and I were there last March, so we still got to ride. I love Tom Sawyer Island. I think I'm in the minority in the family. I know my sons are big fans, but I love Tom Sawyer Island, and I love the ferry boat. And so we got to do that. But when I went back in November, of course, those are gone. The the old Splash Mountain, what is it now?
Tiana's Bayou.
Tiana's Bayou. That was down for the day. The Carousel of Progress was down. The Buzz Lightyear ride was down. There's so many things. It's like you're walking around going, well, that's not up. That's not up. So, of course, what happens, people are even more crowded on the rides that are open.
Yeah.
But luckily, I think the thing that really would have been a bummer for me is if the Haunted Mansion wasn't available, because you can see from my attire, it's one of my favorite rides, maybe the favorite ride, even when I get on it now, I do feel a little bit of been there, done that.
Sure.
But it's just cool. And when I went in November, I exercised the, I don't want to go in the stretch room, deal. So you get to go down that little private hallway.
Yeah.
Which is still themed. They have some cool keys and stuff on the wall to make you feel it's not just a blank hallway, which maybe some other amusement park might do, just so you can avoid that and you can get on the ride. They still theme the room, so it still feels like part of the Haunted Mansion. And the Haunted Mansion, I remember when we first went there in the early 90s, I was driven to try to find a CD that had the song from the Haunted Mansion on it. And it was a tough find in the park. Of course, that was long before, the internet and things you could buy and Amazon. And I mean, right now you can buy practically any single thing, any sound effect, any song, anything that you could think of that's available from Disney.
Yeah, even smells. Like I think Adam and Felicia bought the infusers where you can buy the smells of 80 different smells of Disney World. So
well, that's going a little too far.
Well, only the good ones. We don't have the Tomorrowland Speedway exhaust
smell.
That's in the next order. Yeah, I think some little two-stroke.
Well, you should get that smell from Main Street of cinnamon buns. Because that's probably not a smell you'd ever have in your house naturally, right? I mean, your wife, I know she's hell of a baker. I don't know if she does cinnamon buns.
No. Now, Ariana's favorite so far is the Wilderness Lodge smell.
Really?
Which is a cool one. And my favorite so far is the oranges from Soarin'.
Soarin', that's my favorite smell.
Yeah,
like
that's cool.
When you fly over the field there. So
yeah,
that's cool.
What is the Fort Wilderness smell? Wilderness Lodge smell like?
It's almost like a campfire and wooded, like cabiny kind of thing, but it's not too overpowering. We use not a sponsor, but the Magic diffuser.
What do? You plug them in the outlet?
It's oil, and it goes in a canister, so to speak, and it heats it up, and it's on a timer, it's Wi-Fi controlled or whatever. So every 30 minutes it goes for 30 seconds, and the smell lasts for a decent amount of time, probably 15, 20 minutes.
So when we do come to town, my suitcase and clothes do tend to smell like some sort of scent they have going on. So it works well.
Yeah, yeah. We got to cover it with Mitchell's in town. So it's perfect. Um,
Well,
go ahead.
So while talking about these renovations and stuff, are you pretty excited to see what they have in the works with Villains Land? I know they're changing some things.
No.
Fair
No,
enough.
because they got rid of Tom Sawyer Island. That's what I'm not thrilled about.
Valid.
Tom Sawyer Island to me, and of course, so my wife she didn't want to go on the island, or didn't excite her. So she'd go buy herself a little bag of candy, and she'd sit right there on the wall. There used to be benches there, which they've now gotten rid of.
The rocking chairs and benches, yeah.
And she would sit there and watch me go over on the raft. And, and then of course, like a goof, I'm waving to her from the raft, and then I would get on the island and I would just explore. I love the caves. I love to go to the fort, and she'd just sit there and relax and take a breather and have some candy. And when I was tired of running around the island like a little kid, I would get back on the raft and come back. And I really liked it. I thought it was cool. I don't know about you guys. I know my boys liked it when they were young. I remember taking, Danny there when he was a teenager, and he was not a fan. And, and of course I would walk behind him in the cave and make all kind of noises and hoots and hollers. But no, I thought that was, I'm glad that Disneyland's still keeping all that. I'm really curious what they're going to do with the ferry boat. I know it's still docked over there. And, I don't know. I've seen the Cars ride at Disneyland, so I know what it is.
Yeah.
Villains Land will be interested to see what they do with that. But there's not, if you look at the aerials, there's not really that much real estate that they have cleared out. Although Disney does a great job of creating space in a very small area. Yeah. It gives you the impression that it's bigger than it really is a lot of times.
Yeah, and the visible space may be different than the utilized space, right? Like when you go on Space Mountain, you're way back, or any of those types of rides too, where the actual ride mechanisms behind the facade, so to speak.
Right.
So I do remember, and Mitch and I think I maybe was on a podcast or not, I don't remember. We talked about playing hide and seek with Rob and Jake and Danny on Tom Sawyer Island.
Yeah.
Back
one
in
of my fondest memories of that trip.
The 2003, the big trip that everyone took.
So where were we when you were doing that?
Oh, you were probably scaring somebody in a cave. I would imagine.
Probably your Aunt Sue.
Yeah,
that's probably. Yeah.
Can you remember back to the trips with your kids, and what was kind of the highlight, other than saying the smiles on their faces, right? What was kind of the highlight of those trips for you as they grew up at Disney World?
Yeah, I mean, I think the highlight was always, watching them be excited, watching their interplay with the mascots and the characters, and the one year, I think 1 or 2 years, they all got their little autograph books, and that was the quest to get autographs from all the characters, and then the one year, your cousin Jake went with a broken leg, which he had just broken, like 4 days before we went on the trip. So it was still very much giving him pain while we were there. But, he was at Disney, so he was fine. But the characters would all autograph his cast. So he thought he had a permanent record of the trip. And then at some point when he was, like 20 years old, his mom got rid of that smelly cast that was still up in his closet.
He had that for a long time.
Yeah, he did. He did. And he was very careful that when they were removing the cast, asking the doctor to not just destroy the cast, but to try to make a clean cut. So he had it, had it intact with all the signatures. So that was, that was the fun stuff. Of course, the pool and them having fun in the pool. And it was, especially like then when you guys all went and everybody, I mean, you guys spent hours in the pool just throwing a little tennis ball around. So I think that was just, the family time was just great. And, when we stayed the one year at Port Orleans, you get up my first thing, I get up, I go get coffee and tea for Mary and I, and a couple beignets for the boys and some juice, and we'd kind of grab a quick breakfast in the room and head to the bus. And and that's definitely one thing. um, when I went in November, I stayed at the Caribbean. One, I like the Caribbean. I think it's the most tropical Florida type resort they have. And I like the music, the background calypso music and everything. But you've got the Skyliner now, which is much better than riding those buses. Those
Yeah.
buses, to me, are getting problematic. There's so many people, and you're crammed on those buses. And if you miss that bus, you're there for another 25 minutes. And then you've got the scooter people.
Mhm.
And I have no problems with people that have a walking disability and they need a scooter. But I'm not crazy about those people who are just a little too large to walk around the park, so they take the easy way out. It's one thing to be riding on a scooter because you're too heavy to walk the park.
Mhm.
With your bucket of buttered popcorn and your candy apple, it's like you're never going to get better.
Right.
You're never
Right.
going to lose weight. Anyway, I know that that's become, for some people, the buses have really, I think, and I don't know what their options are. I mean, well, if you're at a resort where the monorail is, that's great. If you're
Yeah.
at a resort where the Skyliner is, that's terrific. I really like the Skyliner. I think that brings you to Epcot and, Hollywood Studios like that. And they're enjoyable rides.
Yeah.
It's just being on them is an enjoyable ride. It's like kind of like being on the monorail. But
Yeah,
the
lot,
bus
lot,
is not enjoyable.
lot to see when you're up there, and whether
Yeah.
it's resorts, just traffic, people, whatever it is. Yeah, 100% agree with you there.
Yeah. Last time we were there with the kids, we didn't have a reason to go on the on the Skyliner. So, but the kids wanted to do it. So the one time we just went to Hollywood Studios, jumped on it, rode it over to Caribbean,
Came
switched, went
back.
to,
Yeah.
we walked around Art of Animation to the gift shop and got some snacks or whatever, and then just came back on it. So
Yeah, it's a ride. It's really, it's just another ride. Well, you're probably too young to remember, but Disney World used to have the
Ski lift.
ski
Whatever
lift,
it was.
yeah.
yeah.
And, so it was almost the same thing. And, and that was really cool because you would kind of go over the heads of everybody in the park. And I guess for safety reasons, they got rid of it. And, I guess when you think about it, you're kind of sailing right over everybody's head.
I know.
So for the same reason they don't allow drones.
I've seen the videos of, I mean, it's just the bar, right? Just a slide down little bar, and you wonder how more people didn't die, frankly, just generally from stuff like that.
It was just like one of the old-fashioned ski lifts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. At least there's snow under you for that.
Yeah. But yeah, I love I love the Skyliner. Every once in a while you read something that they're talking about extending the monorail, but I'm sure it's so expensive and there's no payback because you're not charging anybody to ride the monorail. But
right.
Transportation, I think, can be a problem depending on where you're staying there. And if you have to take a bus to I think it would be nice if you could take a bus from resort to resort instead of having to take a bus from the resort to like, back to where your hotel is or to Disney Springs. It'd be nice to be able to, be at the Magic Kingdom and get on a bus and go over to Hollywood Studios. I'm guessing they're figuring there's not enough people to warrant doing that, but because that'd be one more bus on the route.
Yeah, with the park hoppers, even if they only ran it between, because what was the timeline's 2:00? Well, it used to be. Now it's different, but I think as long as you spend X amount of time in your current parks, you can go to the other. But it used to be 2:00. If they just ran them from 12:30 till whenever, I guess that would make sense. But I don't know.
Just a suggestion.
Yeah, we'll send it up to our people.
Yeah, would you please?
Yeah, I'm sure we'll handle it.
If there's one ride that you could bring back that's permanently closed, what would it be?
I don't know. What? Give me some rides that have been permanently closed.
Great movie ride, Splash Mountain.
I do think Splash Mountain was a little bit better than what they have now, at least story wise. But of course, I didn't see the movie, So keep
valid
going.
point
What
either.
else?
Well, Tom Sawyer, as we talked about, that was on my list.
Oh, well, I guess you
well, I
just
think we know what
too
it
yeah.
is.
soon. Too soon. All right. I
Backlot
guess
Tour,
Backlot Tour is
Captain
gone.
Yeah.
EO, the Michael
Well,
Jackson.
you guys
run.
remember the Ninja Turtles at
I do.
MGM Studios?
Hollywood
Yeah.
Studios, yeah.
I mean, that was, you know, I think that would still be a huge hit.
Yeah, they've had a resurgence
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
the last 8, 7, 6 years, whatever. Their animations come out again, obviously, but what else, Mitch? There's the Ellen's Universe of Energy.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. I can't say the only thing I liked about it was the dinosaurs, and then when they got to the movie at the end, it was like if there was a way to get off, I would have gotten off. But
Horizons. That's an older
Horizons
one.
was neat. Yes,
20,000
yes,
Leagues.
I liked Horizons.
Hmm.
20,000 Leagues was kind of, especially if it was a hot day.
Mhm.
Those submarines were smelly.
Oh,
They were hot and smelly. There was no air conditioning in those things.
Can't say
We
I
have,
ever had the chance to go on, but
we have a video
Horizon
somewhere.
Horizon was cool. Horizon was cool, and there's a number of videos on YouTube that still show Horizon. In fact, I know I have some on my hours of home videos.
Mhm.
But it was cool because you could pick the way you wanted to get home at the end. You could pick 3 different ways home, and
Yeah, it's like choose your own
so yeah, I
adventure,
like
but
that.
Disney
Yeah.
style. Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, Magic doesn't really close down a bunch of rides. Not really. They might
yeah.
like they had what was it called? Extraterrestrial,
Yeah.
the alien
Yeah.
counter, then they switched to Stitch.
Well, and they had Snow White. You remember Snow White, Adam?
Yeah.
Yep.
The witch at the end. I remember you and your cousin coming off that ride with your hands over your eyes because if you remember, the ride ended with she was pushing the rock down on you as you were leaving the ride.
I was 16. And it was,
Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. That's
yeah,
gone.
that's another one.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah. So how has your perspective changed? Being a parent, right? Well, you're still a parent, you know what I mean, though. Being a parent in Disney, trying to make sure you do all the things, and now that you can kind of just sit back because you've done it all, right? How does that kind of change your either appreciation or lack thereof of the parks? Like,
I think first of all, I'm looking forward to going back to the parks with my grandkids at some point. Because I'd like to see, kind of relive their excitement through the park. And Jake's son Cooper's been there 3 times already.
Yeah,
He's
right?
2 years old.
yeah, Cooper lived
And
there. Yeah, partial residency in
so,
Florida.
the one thing about if you've been there for so many times, and I'm not even close to, your Uncle Fran and Aunt Sue.
Yeah.
You pick and choose, or if you're with somebody, you'll go on something because they want to go on it. But when I did my walk around the Magic Kingdom back in November, I spent some time when you first walk into that town square that they built because I always thought that's kind of overlooked. People are in such a hurry to get in and get
Right.
down to the castle area that there's so much theming in that area. Like I went into the firehouse, which I'd never done. And there's some cool stuff inside the firehouse, not the least of which are patches from fire departments all over the world that they have up on a wall. But they, and then the city hall, town hall, whatever they're calling it. And then there's one next to that I didn't go in where it's like, those are basically, you can go in and book, return trips or
Yep.
you used to be able to, and I don't know if they do it anymore, but used to, if you bought something in the park, you could have it delivered there and then pick it up on the way out. And I don't know if they still do that anymore because that was convenience. You're not walking around with a big bag of stuff. But I just thought, and I hate to see, you talk about what they used to do and now it's gone. They used to have another side street there on Main Street. They have one on the right when you're walking in. There used to be one on the left, which I like because it added a little ambiance, like a little, as I called it in my walk around, little nook and cranny where you could go in there if you want to take a seat and rest for a minute and have a drink, a soft drink. And then I used to love the magic shop because they had all those great Halloween masks in there. And I like Halloween masks. And I bought I think 4 altogether. I still have 2 from back then, from like 1993. And,
Wow.
and that was cool stuff. And then everything, they just wiped everything out. Now it's just one long store, even though each storefront is different. You're basically just walking in one long store. On the right side is still more individual stores as you
Yeah.
go through. Um, but the stuff like that, I thought, um, look, there's no doubt they're there to make money and they're there to sell you things. And so some of that, they obviously analyzed it. And when the bean counters get in there and start realizing, because a good buddy of mine, Brian Whitman, who used to be a VP of promotion for the resorts and for events, he's told me they basically they track everything. You know this, Mitch. They track everything. They know what's up, what's down. And he was explaining to me that absolutely for years they had tracked like Tom Sawyer Island. It was not one of the more
Yeah.
popular spots for people in general. And getting there and back where it was problematic as far as numbers of people. So it was just a matter of time. It was only because it was one of Walt's original ideas, and he loved the ferry boat, that I think it hung around as long as it did. And it's still at Disneyland. I don't know if they'll ever get rid of it there. So stuff like that are some of the things I miss. But times change. I enjoyed how MGM and then that turned into Hollywood Studios, how they started adding rides because it really was not an all-day park.
Right.
And now with the Star Wars and Toyland, I think families are finding out that it's worthwhile to take the kids there now. There's more for them to do and see.
That's slowly becoming one of my favorite parks, I think. Um, Epcot's 1 for me, but I think that's probably 2. As me now, as a dad, Magic Kingdom's up there, obviously. But
I love walking into Hollywood Studios when you first get in with the shops and okay, Bob, what's the name of the street? It's Hollywood and Vine,
Hollywood Boulevard.
Hollywood Boulevard,
Yeah.
yeah, and
and the
then
music.
Sunset is the one that goes down to Rock and Roller Coaster.
And now they used to have characters on the street play acting like they were movie stars, and they would drag you
Yeah.
into a scene, and they'd have a director. And they didn't have that when I was there in November. I don't know if they still do that.
So I think that went away. And we actually brought this up on one of our previous How Would You Fix Hollywood Studios? And that was
Right.
one of my major things, was bring that back. Like, that was awesome. Take 20
Yeah, that was
minutes, you
fun.
watch the shows, different actors, different shows than they had throughout the day. It wasn't always the same person. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, but they did, when you walk in, the shop on the right and the shop on the left, it's all one long shop, again, with different storefronts.
Mhm.
But I do like, what is it? What is the road that goes down to Tower Terror?
Sunset Boulevard.
Sunset Boulevard. So that's cool because those are different, unique shops. As you're kind of working down there, you've got the fruit stand and the farmers market, and the Tower of Terror. The theming around the Tower of Terror is really neat.
Yep.
I think that whole, the queue line to get in, and then the lobby and the things that you can pick up in the lobby, and the little Easter eggs that they've put in there for you to pick up on, and now, you guys weren't old enough to ever watch the original Twilight Zone, but I remember the original Twilight Zone. And when you go into the first room to watch you're in the queue there where the TV shows you, Rod Serling and the whole intro.
Mhm.
Around the room are all little artifacts from some of the classic episodes. That if you remember the episodes, it's just another thing to kind of tweak your imagination as you're walking, and it helps you occupy your time as you're waiting to get on those elevators. Now, when they first opened that, remember, it was one drop. That was it. You were done.
Yeah, one big
So
one.
you'd wait in line for 40 minutes. You'd get in, you go up, you drop, you'd scream, you get off. I mean, they realized after not too long that we better make this more of an enduring, experience for people to keep coming back.
Yeah, they what's the tagline now? It's never the same ride twice, because it's
Yeah.
randomized, the drop now. And then they added the slow motion camera that people are doing, like their glamour shots doing that. I don't know if you guys have seen that on TikTok at all, but
Yeah.
oh yeah, you get people flipping
No.
their hair during the thing or making a face. Stuff that,
Really?
yeah. Oh yeah, check that out. There's a bunch on YouTube. There's like big collections of it.
Well, all the
Um,
still photos of me on that ride are me with holding my little camera.
I wanted to mention, you were talking about, they're there to sell you things and all that kind of stuff. I've read somewhere that they maintain a price per square foot that each, section should be earning X amount of dollars in the retail space. And that's where they come up with what types of product and where and all that kind of good stuff, especially down Main Street, USA. I will say, though, I do like the gift shop at Tower of Terror, and I'm disappointed in the gift shop at Haunted Mansion, being that it's kind of off. I say off the side, but it's a little bit off to the side, and it's a tough building to get in and out of, frankly,
Yeah,
unless
it's
you
very
kind of
cramped.
know it's there. So felt like they could do a better job in that one.
Yeah, and I thought that was a natural spot. After they got rid of the House of Magic and all those Halloween masks and everything, that would have been a great spot to have brought them back and put them into that little
Mhm.
building. They used to have a cart
Yeah.
right when you come off that would have some of that stuff before they built that building. And they used to have, because I've got a couple of them, and your brother Ryan is one of them, and your Aunt Susan the other,
Yeah.
and I'm in one.
All
Those
those
pictures
pictures.
you could have taken, which you would
Yeah.
change into a ghoul, but they don't do that anymore either.
Yeah, they had a lot of
Yeah.
Jack Skeleton stuff there for a while too, and in that area.
Yeah. Well, there's not too many Halloween targeted Disney things themselves. Not.
Well, and it's surprising because the Halloween party is now like one of their biggest things, right?
Yeah.
You'd think they'd have more Halloween themed, things that you could buy in the park as far as masks, and maybe they don't want to sell masks. Maybe they're a tripping hazard. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they used to be able to buy those little LED lights that look like, like a cat's lights in the dark.
Mhm.
I had, guys remember from my house. And they would have like skeleton faces with the jaws opening, closing. They had a lot of, when the LED started to come out with some of those things, but they don't have any of that stuff any longer either.
Yeah.
I mean, this is turning into kind of a bitch session
No.
about what they don't do anymore.
It's all good.
We
It's all
still
good.
love Disney.
Yes. Yeah. Still past, present, future, all that kind of good stuff. What are you looking forward to most? With whether it's a change that they're implementing at one of the parks or it's a ride. I know you talked about going back with the grandkids now, obviously, but is there anything Disney World specific that you're looking forward to?
No, not really. I think I'm kind of past the age where,
You look
it's,
forward.
the one thing I guess, and this is a big bugaboo of mine, I mean, they now own the rights to Marvel Studios.
Yeah.
They are Marvel Studios. Why is there not more Marvel Studios, characters, rides, things like that? It's all at Universal.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's some ownership, there's some contractual things. There's got to be a way around it. And I think that would be, there something they could bring into. I would think Hollywood Studios would be the place to do something like that, right?
Yeah.
Create kind of a Marvel land.
Yeah, they have
So-
Avengers Academy out in Disneyland.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're doing it there, but I'm curious the same. There's got to be something that says if Universal has these characters
Right.
still active, then you can't do it over in your space.
Or Universal's just paying a shit ton of money.
Could be.
I didn't know we were
Could
allowed
be.
to swear on this.
Yeah, it's 18 plus.
Fair enough. Fair
No,
enough.
I'm sure there's a reason why Universal legally is allowed to do it and Disney's not. And
Yeah.
I don't know, because I grew up with the Marvel guys, and that seems like it's such a natural to me.
Yeah.
Although I think Marvel Studios is, we'll see what they do with
The Doctor
Doom and the Avengers, because I think they've lost their way on some of these movies
Yeah.
since the Infinity
It's become a cash
saga.
grab. I think the only, not to get too far off track here, but the only thing that's been really good lately, last handful of years, is the Loki series.
Yeah.
Everything
WandaVision
else-
was good.
Oh, well, you're right.
Yeah.
I agree.
WandaVision.
WandaVision was good.
Yeah. Their side series are better than their actual movies are. Yeah.
Well, you don't have to be a genius to realize that when you take, B-level characters who were B-level characters in the comics, it didn't sell as many issues as your A-level characters. And when you devote an entire film to them,
Mhm.
it's not going to be as popular.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, and that's why I think, obviously, the Marvel guys aren't actually running the studios. The guys who created the comics, and Stan Lee is gone. And even
Right.
when he was around, I think he was way past the time where he remembered who was who in the Marvel universe, the new characters that were created after he left. But yeah, we're getting off track here. But you bring me back for a Marvel bitch session the next time you do one of those.
Mitch, do you have
Maybe
any
I'll bring
questions?
my son Danny on
There you go.
so he can
Do you have-
remind everybody it's just a movie, Dad.
Just nanobots, just to tell them that. Are you more so of a fan of fireworks shows, or you like the late night parades?
I think both. I think more of the fireworks shows than the parades, because the parades are a huge hassle to try to get a spot. And, people are lining up at an hour and a half before the parade. They're sitting on the curb. You're not supposed to, but they do.
Mhm.
And no, I think the fireworks shows and the music and what really intrigued me is when they started to develop the projections onto the castle.
Mhm.
Because I had a projector, you guys know, a long time ago. And when they started creating that was really magical, that what they could do on the castle. And you see other areas, other theme parks are trying to copy that. But so I prefer the fireworks shows.
Cool.
And I found, if you look on Google Earth, if you know what you're looking for, you can find the launching spots for the fireworks around the outskirts of the Magic Kingdom, and also on the roof of the buildings right behind the castle,
Mhm.
which is amazing that I know they rope it off, but those fireworks things do drop from the sky, but you never hear any complaints about that there.
I
Right.
think if you ever had the time and the cash flow, check out one of the behind the scenes stories, because I think you'd really find it
Yeah,
interesting.
I think I would. I think you're right.
Yeah. Our employee buses, like if you were as an employee going to Magic Kingdom, the drop off for to go to work, quote unquote, or even if you were just there on your day off and taking it from one of our complexes, is right by those launching pads off the back road, which is kind
Yeah.
of cool. And you go right into the utilidors.
Nice.
The one people like to go into the barber shop and get their
Mhm.
hair done. And I know if you bring in a little boy or little girl for the first time, you get a certificate, and they put sparkles in your hair and the whole thing. But it's as cool as it is. Once you get in there, it's a barber shop.
Yeah, right.
It's
Right.
Yeah.
you get your hair done, and it's very reasonable, really, for what they charge.
Yeah,
Mm.
I think
So
Ryan's had his done there a couple times.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
I know a number of these vloggers have gone in
Yeah.
there and they're holding the camera and they're getting their hair cut. And again, technically, you're not supposed to interview
Mhm.
the cast members. So they just kind of leave the camera running while the cast member just naturally has a conversation about how you want your hair done, and you can slip in a few questions. There's an older guy who does it with his wife. He works there. He works at the Contemporary in one of the shops. I don't know if you've seen him. Unfortunately, we kind of resemble each other a little bit. And that's when I went in there, I'm like, how many people are going to think I'm ripping this guy off? But he went in and got his hair cut because he said that they no longer do haircuts for the cast members, which they used to do down in those utilidors.
Yeah.
Right. So that, I guess, was another cutback.
That's surprising, because they're very strict on uniform, your hair, what your hair can have, what it can't have, the length, and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. Surprised they stopped doing that.
Well, have they loosened up? I mean, I think I've seen cast members with piercings and things like that.
Yes, I think post COVID that all kind of came about. Because I know when I was there, it was very, very strict. Shine shoes, pressed uniform, the whole nine.
Yeah.
You couldn't have any stains, nothing, whatever the case may be. Clean shaven, the whole nine. So that has to be a post COVID loosening of the rules.
Well, again, from talking to my friend, he said that they definitely had an issue with employment post COVID,
I can
because once
imagine.
people are out of work for almost a year, they moved on to something else because they had to.
Yeah.
So plus Universal's growing, and there's other attractions that are growing in the area. So the talent pool isn't what it once was. And Mitch, you're not getting rich working there, right? You'd think.
No.
I mean, people go, they work there to say I work at Disney and the experience, but you're not getting rich.
Yeah. It's either a resume builder, or B, a benefits kind of thing. Yeah. I know that when we went during COVID, and there's a big change pre-COVID to post-COVID, or during COVID, the customer service aspect of what the employees would offer, or even put a smile on, or even, say, how you doing? How can I help you? That kind of stuff was kind of almost non-existent at that point. And I know they had a
Yeah.
big reset after that.
It's I've talked to people about it a lot, the Disney experience isn't what it once was. Everybody's not there just to make sure you have a wonderful day, because it's a job.
Mhm.
And I'm guessing that management isn't holding their feet to the fire as they once did, as far as being strict with what you can and can't do. Now, when I was there in November, we were there in last March, we didn't have a bad experience with anybody. But when I went, so a little story, little Uncle Bob story. So Aunt Mary, who's great at surprising me, which I'm beginning to think is because I'm not too sharp on picking up on what's going on around me. So when I turned 60, she, you guys know the story. She woke me up at 2 a.m. and said, "You're turning 60. What are you going to do next?" And I had just woken up and I'm like, I don't know. What am I going to do? "You're going to Disney World." "Oh, when?" "Right now." And we showered and drove to the airport. Danny drove us to the airport. So I was walking around with a button that said, "It's my birthday," right? And so we walked in the one shop, and this gentleman who was a manager saw the button, wished me happy birthday. And he said, "Did you specifically come to Disney for your birthday?" And so I, because I'm like the insurance commercials, I've turned into my parent. I told him the story,
Mm.
and he just thought it was wonderful. And so he brought over 2 poor young ladies who worked there in the store to sing happy birthday to me with him.
Yeah.
And Aunt Mary went and she ran and hid somewhere. And I was smiling, and but those were the kind of things that you would see,
Mhm.
I think more than that was, 11 years ago than what you run into now. I think it's been a little bit tougher for them to maintain that type of interaction. Now, my buddy John Dandies, who just passed away, he was president of Bison Baseball. He worked for Rich Entertainment. I never knew this because he always seemed kind of a serious guy, but I guess he was a huge Disney guy. And you guys would never remember this, but when the Bisons started rocking and rolling in the late 80s, early 90s, they created um, an offshoot of their company, Rich Entertainment, called Be Our Guest, which is exactly from Beauty and the Beast.
Right.
And they sent employees down there to be trained in hospitality. That was Disney's thing. And I don't know if that's even possible anymore. I don't even know if they offer that.
They still do offer university classes. I don't know, for group settings and stuff like that. I know Uncle Fran has done some in the past. But I'll tell you what, like that's training and stuff that I take on a daily basis, to my actual job currently. So a lot of stuff that I implement and how I manage is all from, a lot of it's from Disney. And I can't say that it's the same now as it was, 10 years ago or plus.
They don't mind you walking around with the Mickey ears on and stuff, or
on my desk, it says, "I have the Tower of Terror. You may check in, but you may never check out." So I have my little knickknacks and stuff, but
I get it.
yeah, it's their management training and overall customer service is next level. So
Yeah, they do executive training. Even the Walmart organization tries to mimic some of the stuff that Disney's perfected over the years.
Yeah, they
So,
wrote the book on it. There's no doubt.
oh,
I've asked my buddy, because he said, at the end of every meeting, whatever we were discussing, if it was a new project or it was a new undertaking, what would Walt do? And somebody would always say, "Okay, what would Walt do?" And then they would kick it around, and I said to him, "But did that really stop you from doing something that everybody's already decided you're going to do?"
mm-hmm.
And he kind of him and hawed, and you wonder, because you really, if you watch the films and the history, and there's a video available now that Disney's created. I strongly recommend you and your viewers to watch it. They discovered all this film that was shot when they built the park, Disneyland. There was no audio on the film. It was all silent color film. And Walt had hired, I think, 3 photographers to basically keep a record of construction, how they took out the trees, when they started putting in the roads, when they started building up Main Street, when they started digging the canal for the Jungle Cruise. He wanted all that documented on film. And it really sat there, and they did nothing with it afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So some enterprising individual, they took all the film, they logged everything, because there was hours and hours of it. And then they edited it down to tell the story. And there's been videos out there, films out there, similar, narrated and whatnot. But this is a little bit more intricate and more, you see more hands-on work. And then they took it over to Lucas Studios, and Lucas Studios created all the background sound effects, construction noise, chit chat in the background, birds singing. You would never, if you didn't know that, you would never guess it by watching the film. It's so incredibly done. You think you were there. And because it was shot in high quality film, the quality of it, it's not like old ratty tatty black and white.
Right.
It's very good color. And then to see Walt, and he thought he was going, when they started out, if my memory's correct, he thought it was going to cost $4 million to build Disneyland. Then that quickly became $7 million. And then every 2 months it just doubled. And they really got to the end. He had remortgaged his house. He mortgaged everything. They'd basically run out of money. And they were trying, now they didn't do stuff on the cheap, but they were trying little shortcuts to get stuff done. And I'm guessing you've heard the story that when they opened up Disneyland, the asphalt hadn't even cured yet.
Yeah.
And some of the women walking around in their high-heeled shoes were getting stuck in the tar.
Yeah.
But before that first year ended, they had made all their money back.
Yeah.
So people always doubted Walt and thought he was crazy. And you just don't have anybody like him walking around anymore today.
Yeah, I think they were at the point.
There's a lot more limitations.
Right.
Yeah.
I think they were at the point, if they didn't open the park, they wouldn't have opened the park. And that's what kind of got them to open the doors. And some of the rides weren't even open fully yet. But like you said, at the end of their first year, they were in the black. Yeah.
Yeah. Chase your dreams, kids.
Yeah, right.
Remortgage your house. What's the worst that could happen? Couple, 2, 3 things, I'm sure. Mitch, you have anything else for Uncle Bob before we hit him with a quick, what's your favorite? All right, Uncle Bob, what we're going to do here, we usually end with like a trivia or a game or something like that. But what we're going to do, since Mitch and I have 13 episodes under our belts, basically pros at this point, and we've covered a lot of our stuff. What I'm going to ask you is just, I think we have 5 or 6 of them. What's your favorite? So just quick off top of your head, what's your favorite? So the first one, what is your favorite Disney park?
Magic Kingdom.
What's your favorite Disney snack?
Beignets.
Okay. What's your favorite Disney ride?
Haunted Mansion.
I was going to have to say active first because I was waiting for you to say Tom Sawyer.
Currently under refurb right now, but
yeah.
Right. What is your favorite Disney hotel or resort?
Caribbean.
Okay. What is your favorite Disney movie?
Oh, that's a hard one. See, it's hard to, because I remember the animated films growing up, but now there's so many films that have come out.
Like, don't give me Star Wars or like an offshoot, but like a traditional Disney animated film. Like Miracle's a Disney movie, but it doesn't really strike me as a Disney movie.
I think my favorite animated Disney movie is Snow White, and I think my favorite kind of non-animated Disney movie.
Snow White.
No, that's a tough one. No.
It's live action.
All of a sudden we're canceled.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a hard one. I don't know. There's so many things now because basically, technically, Marvel is now under the Disney flag too. So,
right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't say.
All right. And then is
that the end of the game?
No, I was going to say money's not an option, and you're going to go down to Disney for a resort. Would you pick Caribbean Beach or would you pick one of the different like deluxe resorts or something like that?
So if money was no option, I know your Aunt Mary would pick the Polynesian, and I probably would go along with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit
but
nostalgia.
A very close second is the Caribbean.
Gotcha. Mitch, where would
Yeah.
you stay? Money's no option.
I'd be interested to see how the new Polynesian resort opens and what that looks like. I do really, really, really want to stay at the Riviera.
Jake
Okay.
found a little bar in the Polynesian that I didn't even knew existed. He says you got to go down a hall, and you when you order a drink, there's like things happen in the bar. It's like themed, in like a Polynesian bar. And he went in there with Jess and the kids, and I saw some pictures, and it was cool. It was like it wasn't just a regular little bar or like their place upstairs. He said the only problem is that you could end up sitting with other people because it's not very big. And as soon as a couple seats open up, they put you over there.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah, interesting.
I'll have to
Kinda
check
like-
it out. I didn't know it existed.
Probably like Oga's Cantina kind of thing. Just you sit wherever there's a spot. It's not as
I guess.
much designated space. That's cool though. Yeah, I think if money was no option, I might do the resort or the theme park view at the Contemporary, where you can see. I've seen the videos from people's rooms where they watch the fireworks at Magic Kingdom at
Yeah.
night. That looks pretty awesome.
That'd
Yep.
be cool.
Yeah, I've done the restaurant up there. Animal Kingdom would probably be a close second for me. The lodge.
The
Love
Savannah
the
view.
Savannah view. Yeah, as I talked
Yeah.
before.
That's a good one. All right. Well, Uncle Bob, thank you very, very much for joining us this
It's
evening.
been a
and
pleasure.
doing the pod with us. Maybe we'll get you back again in a handful more episodes, and we'll talk something specific like the history of Tom Sawyer Island or whatever you're feeling at the moment. But that was it for us. So thanks very much. Appreciate everyone sticking around to the end.
Thank
All
you.
right, guys. Great being with you. And
Yes.
remember, have yourselves a good night and a much better tomorrow.
Ooh, the old throwback. Like it.
It's a good end.
That's my sign off.